As you can tell by the title, I'm the obsessed movie man, O.M.M. Well, I have to go see a movie today, and what better movie to see than Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Man, oh man, I can't wait to see what campiness Marvel has in store. This is sure to be a lighthearted thriller, at least. I can't wait to see how ridiculously fun this movie is. Well, that was, considerably dark. And it was awesome. Okay, wow. Marvel just decided to finally cut the comedy, scrap the campiness, and give us a very darker take on Captain America. In Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, continues working for S.H.I.E.L.D. as well as adjusting to present-day life, though that is somewhat overlooked a bit. Things get serious when there is an attack on Nick Fury, played by Samuel Jackson, life, made by the mysterious assassin, the Winter Soldier. Fury tells Steve that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been compromised, and before you know it, Steve is drawn into the mix and becomes a fugitive of S.H.I.E.L.D., who believes that Steve is a traitor to their organization. New characters like Falcon, played by Anthony Mackie, and Brock Romero, played by Frank Grillo, are introduced, as well as returning characters such as Black Widow, played by Scarlet Johansson, Dr. Zola, played by Toby Jones, and Steve's former love interest, Peggy Carter, played by Haley Atwell. We also have an old/new character, the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian Stan. It's pretty obvious who it is, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything when I reveal that it's Steve's past friend and fellow soldier, Bucky Barnes. The whole film is very dark, both in tone and in color, which is very interesting considering that the first film was very lukewarm and colorful. The plot is fantastic, possibly the best Marvel has offered us aside from the Avengers. It's very complex, well thought out, and makes a terrific political thriller. A lot of it actually reminds me of the Bourne franchise, where we don't see Captain America hiding, but we see Steve Rogers hiding. My only complaint with the film is that there might not have been enough of the Winter Soldier, which I think was essentially needed for a film that bears the villain's name. Still, it is a must-see film. Out of all the Marvel sequels, this one is by far the best. 4 shields out of 5. That's the review in a nutshell. The rest of it is just I'm just going to offer my leftover thoughts. I thought that it was good. This is by far, it makes up for Iron Man 3, it makes up... Okay, Thor 2 wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that good either. This really makes up for it. The plot is like I said, very complex, and it takes a while to understand. The basic sum up of the plot is that after the events of the first Avengers movie, when Dr. Zola, if you don't remember who Dr. Zola is, he was the scientist who was working for the Red Skull, helping to build weapons with the Tesseract, the Cosmic Cube. When Dr. Zola was apprehended by Tommy Lee Jones, he was put into the paperclip operation, which is when the German scientists were put into the American government. In this case, they're put into the early phase of S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, what happens is Dr. Zola he brings in like a Hydra cult, and they slowly form within S.H.I.E.L.D., so there is a political corruptness within this government, and Hydra has flourished throughout all time, and it's just like Hydra has been responsible for pretty much everything that's been going on in the world, and it's just been surviving. And I was actually really excited because I do know a bit about Dr. Zola from the comics, and I was kind of disappointed that they didn't have that much of him in the first movie. Though there were the little Easter eggs that showed his robotic suit. If you look really carefully, you can see that in the first movie. And you see him in this, and it's a lot like the comic books, where you see his face is in the robot's body and his head is like a camcorder. It's really cool. It's cheesy, and I didn't think they were going to do it, but I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I haven't read the actual Winter Soldier. This is based... I think there is a comic called Captain America Winter Soldier, and I haven't read it, but from what I'm told, it doesn't really have to do with this movie. It's pretty much completely different. If I remember correctly, I was told that Winter Soldier had to do with the Russians and how Bucky Barnes was doing that. In fact, if there's one thing I don't think the film clarified, it was how the Winter Soldier came into being. And before, I'm actually going to have to say, I did not stay till the end credits. This is the only Marvel film I did not stay the end credits. Why? I was in Washington, D.C. at the time when I saw this film, and I was just sightseeing with my family, and I just couldn't stay to see the end credits. I saw the first end credits, which I'll get to in a minute, but I didn't stay till the very end, so maybe they did introduce some things about the Winter Soldier. I don't know, but I'm going to go see the movie again to find out. But I think they didn't really explain how did Bucky survive the fall. I know it's a comic book movie, but how did he survive that fall off the cliff? When I knew that Dr. Zola was performing some tests on him prior, because if you see the first Captain America film, you can deduce that easily. But I just wonder how they got him back. How did they keep him from aging? I think they could have done a little bit more clarification with that instead of the whole. I mean, it's called the Winter Soldier, and a lot of it is more focused on this kind of Bourne Identity-like plot with Steve Rogers and Black Widow. And let's talk about Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson. Chris Evans is doing a fantastic job as Captain America. I think this is by far better than his Johnny Storm / Human Torch. And of course, there's no doubt about it that these movies are way better than those two horrible Fantastic Four films. He can steal the show. He's really likable. I can see why the women like him. Anyway, and it's just sad that he's not gonna stay for that long. No joke. I think if I'm correct, Chris Evans is signed on for just Captain America 3. And the last two Avengers 2 and 3. Then I think he's calling it quits. He wants to move on to directing, give acting a break. So that's gonna probably upset a lot of Captain America fans out there. What a shame. But I could be wrong. Though Sebastian Stan, who plays the Winter Soldier, on the other hand, he signed on for a total of 9 Marvel films, which may indicate that he will go on to replace Chris Evans as Captain America, just like Bucky Barnes does in the comics. He eventually becomes the new Captain America. Oh yeah, and let's talk about Falcon. Falcon was really cool. I was assuming that it was going to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. They didn't say where the wings came from. They just said that he used the wings. And, like, he used the wings in the army. But I was assuming, well, is he a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent? It's like, no, he's just he's just a guy that Steve met while exercising at the Lincoln Memorial. And yeah, that was actually very ironic and cool. While I was in DC, I got to see all the locations, not just the memorial locations, but also the locations where they shot the film. So when I went to the Lincoln Memorial, I'm like, hey, Steve Rogers was just running around that area, huh? But, whatever. I have to admit, though, it was obvious who the villain was going to be immediately. As soon as this guy, Robert Redford, is in this movie, and he's basically, he works for S.H.I.E.L.D. And as soon as he popped up, I'm like, villain. Right then and there, villain. Because this is the problem I have with the Iron Man movies. The villains are always guys in suits, and I don't mean the mechanical suits. There are people like that. But literally, almost all the Iron Man films are people in business suits. And I just, it's like a big cliche. And I see this in the Captain America film, and I'm like, really? This is almost the exact same character I saw in Star Trek Into Darkness, the captain from the other Star Trek movie. The name will come to me later, both the actor and the character name, but I don't care right now. But let's also talk about Sebastian Stan's, I believe I'm saying his name correctly. Let's talk about his performance. He said that he took a lot of his acting methods from, he did the Heath Ledger approach, where he studied like a lot about, because the Winter Soldier is about a brainwashed person, and Sebastian Stan kind of studied all that, studied the comic book character, the theories of brainwashed people, all that stuff. And I'm sure he did a lot of studying, but there's just not a lot to this character. They don't do them. I feel like there's a lot more deleted scenes of the Winter Soldier in it, but they were just cut I feel like we really needed a lot more of the Winter Soldier in this film. And if he's at the end credits, I'm told that he is some. I'm sure that he is. So I'm gonna have to go back and see it. But now, those are my thoughts on the Captain America film. Loved it. Post-credits scene. Also, please explain what happened to Red Skull. I don't buy that he's dead. I know Hugo Weaving's not coming back, but I do not buy for a second that Red Skull is dead. Not in a million years do I think Marvel killed off Red Skull. If anything, he's just transported to Asgard or to one of the 9 realms. Disappointing. Well, you sort of see him in this movie. But anyway, the post-credits scene is you see Baron von Strucker. I'm just learning about this character right now. He's the Hydra leader of Hydra. And he's in this military base where they're studying Loki's staff. Ha 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 ha. I just realized the joke. And, well, it's the little scepter that Loki has, and they're just studying that. And they're also talking about these twins that they have in their possession. And this would be Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. For those who don't know, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are the children of Magneto from the X-Men franchise. But let me clarify. Marvel has drastically changed Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch for their Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because Fox owns the X-Men franchise, you're not going to have like that series merge in with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Instead of being called mutants, they're being called miracles. So, is it... I guess that's a subtle... That's not really a subtle way of changing it, but I'm okay either way, because they are essential members of the Justice League, and yet we still don't have Ant-Man. And Ultron is in the next movie, and Ant-Man's not in it. I digress, I'm going off on a nerd tangent, like I always do. But it was a little nice post-credit scene. It doesn't really hint at what's going to happen when Avengers 2 Age of Ultron comes out, but it ends with a really cool thing when you see Scarlet Witch just using telekinetic powers and then just lights go out. Really cool effect. So, I'm done rambling. Captain America 2 The Winter Soldier is a fun political thriller. I was surprised that Marvel just made a big political thriller instead of like the fun adventure movie. And, oh, before I forget, I think my favorite part of the entire film, the resolution with Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers. I wanted this to see this happen. I didn't want them to write off that Peggy Carter was dead. I thought that was well done. I believe that was the actress who played Peggy Carter in the last movie. I believe that was her, just in old age makeup. And we are introduced to Steve's future love interest, Sharon Carter. Although we don't really know much about her, but yeah, they put her in here, and yet we don't really know much about her. But, okay, other than that, Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier is a fun political action thriller. It has great acting, very good special effects, great climax, and it leaves you on a big cliffhanger, like when you see the end credit. Both the first 2 endings, the ending to the actual movie, the post-credits ending. I haven't seen the other endings, so I don't know what that one's all about. I'm gonna go see it, figure that out. So, thanks. This is an O.M.M. review. This is O.M.M. signing out.
The Red Skull will return, Marvel. The Red Skull will return.